Today's craft is paper beads. Here's some beads I made using simply a piece of colored paper and glue. So let's see what you'll need. You'll definitely need some glue. I used a glue stick, white glue, and optionally, if you have Mod Podge, you can use that too, but we'll get to that later in the video. You'll need scissors. You can also use fancy scissors to cut fun edges. You'll need some toothpicks or something round like a toothpick. And you might need a paintbrush. You'll need some string or maybe some yarn. And you'll want some paper. You can use ads from the newspaper or an old magazine. You can use regular paper and color on it, or you can use construction paper. Get creative, use whatever you like. So let's get started. So you're going to want to take your paper and you're going to want to cut some really thin triangles out of your paper, like this. So one end of your strip will be wide and one end will come to a little point. However wide you make your strip will be as wide as your bead will be. You can also use ads from the newspaper to get some really cool multicolored beads. You could also use wrapping paper, you could use tissue paper, whatever works for you. Each type of paper will give a different effect to your beads. You can also cut the strips into a couple different shapes. So for this one, I'm going to cut like I'm doing a regular triangle, but stop part way up. I'm going to cut a V into my strip. So that I have two pointy ends attached at the top. So take a look. So it will look something like this. This will give you a different shaped bead. You may also color a piece of paper like this. This is how I made my rainbow beads that I showed in the beginning of the video. You'll do the same and you'll cut long, skinny strips out of the colored sheet of paper. Once you have all your strips cut out, now it's time to roll your beads. So you're going to take your glue. You can use white glue, but I used a glue stick because it's a little bit less messy. So I put some glue along the edge of the strip, but leave the very tip of the very widest end of the strip glue free. Put your toothpick at the end of the strip and start to roll your paper around the toothpick, like this. It's a little tricky at first, but you'll get the hang of it. So with a little bit of pressure, use your thumbs and your fingers to roll the paper on the toothpick. As you start rolling, the paper's going to get glued together. Because you cut in a triangle shape, the paper will get skinnier and skinnier, which will make the beads more of a rounded shape. You might need to put a little extra glue on. And you can straighten out your strips if they start to get messed up. You can put some more glue on your strip. And now you have your finished bead. So the little tail on the end sometimes pops off, and you can rub a little bit of glue to hold it down. So now you're going to take it off your toothpick, and you have a hole on the inside, which you'll be able to use to string your beads together. Pretty cool. So let's try a different shape strip. So I put my glue on the strip, leaving that widest part glue-free. We leave that part glue-free because we don't want it to stick to the toothpick. So I start to roll the paper on the toothpick. The more pressure you apply with your thumbs, the tighter the roll will be. So with this split strip, you're going to have to roll each individual strip around. Sometimes I find it easier to roll one at a time, using my fingers to wrap it around. This strip creates like 2 rounded bumps on your bead. So continue to make your beads till you have quite a few so that you'll be able to string them together. Hooray! So now you have tons of beads. This is an optional step, so if you don't have Mod Podge or you just want to leave your beads plain, that's totally fine. But you can use Mod Podge or wet Elmer's glue to make your beads shiny. So let me show you. So Mod Podge comes in a glossy finish and a matte finish, but it pretty much seals your finished work. So if I take my bead and I stick it on the toothpick, just so it's easier to hold, and I brush this on my bead, it will create a clear finish that will make my beads very shiny. It will also make them feel a little bit harder than if I leave them unfinished. So when it's wet, it will appear white, but when it dries, it will dry clear. Some of you might not have this at home, so that's why I'm going to show you that you can also use Elmer's glue to create this same effect. So you lay it down to dry, and let's try one with the Elmer's glue. Elmer's glue is a little bit of a different consistency, and it's definitely a little stickier, so just be careful and work somewhere where you aren't worried about making things too messy. So I'll brush it on just like the Mod Podge. And Elmer's glue will do the same thing. It will look white while it's wet, and when it finally dries, it will dry clear. The Elmer's glue isn't as shiny as the Mod Podge, so if you want it to be especially shiny, maybe try doing a couple coats on your beads. So whatever you choose, finish all your beads and let them dry for a while until they're dry to the touch. Once your beads are dry, you'll now have a bunch of beads you can string. So here are some that were just construction paper. These were my drawn paper pieces. These are a couple I made from newspaper clippings. These beads I used a pattern paper that I found. Was a sparkly piece of paper. And for these ones, I cut strips out using the fun scissors to make designed edges. So as you can see, you can kind of experiment with different papers and different scissors to get different effects for your beads. So I encourage you to try lots of different things. So you'll take your string and you'll measure it out as long as you need. If you're going to make a bracelet, wrap it around your wrist. If you're going to make a necklace, check how long you want your necklace to be, and always give yourself a little extra string. So I'll take my string and I'll start stringing my beads in. Homemade beads and homemade necklaces and bracelets make great gifts, or you could just make it for yourself. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Have a great weekend!